Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem made an announcement last week that has caused a bit of a stir.
It has something to do with Real ID. Here she is.
Hi, I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. If you plan on traveling, we need your help to prevent delays and to prove your identity. Get a Real ID. Starting May 7th, you will need a Real ID to travel by air or to visit federal buildings in the United States.
Now, actually, some of the backlash here is coming from people on the right. Congressman Thomas Massie, Republican, for instance, wrote on X, Real ID isn't needed and won't stop terrorists from hijacking planes. Most of the 9/11 hijackers held Saudi, UAE, Egyptian, or Lebanese passports. Real ID is a national standard and a database of IDs that's primarily a tool for control of Americans. Trump shouldn't enforce it.
Now, per the TSA, 81% of travelers who go through airport checkpoints are already compliant. Congress had passed the Real ID Act back in 2005, which then allowed for there to be a federal standard on state IDs, but this measure was supposed to go into effect in 2008. It never did. TSA spokesman Carter Langston defended the initiative, writing, "Identity verification is a linchpin in security, and we will make sure that passengers are verified as being who they say they are before they can go beyond the checkpoint."
Well, I am very frustrated to hear this is going into effect. Now, of course, most people already have a Real ID if you had to update your driver's license anytime recently, depending on what state you live in. They've already made your driver's license Real ID compliant, so probably this isn't going to affect you in that way. It will affect you in having your license now be in this database, and which I know a lot of libertarian people who have serious privacy concerns, both about whether hackers will actually be able to penetrate that database and get your information. And then Thomas Massie's point is very well taken that what this is not, again, we're doing security theater. We're still, however, 20 years later, 25 years later, we're still doing 9/11-based security theater, doing things that are more restrictive, more difficult, more burdensome, more inconvenient for Americans because national security and safety, with no shred of evidence this is going to help protect against terrorism or anything of that nature. The TSA itself is the textbook example of this. The entire agency should be abolished. Paging Dr. Elon Musk to the Doge operating room. I want TSA gone. It is a abhorrent waste of money and inefficient and doesn't contribute to our safety whatsoever.
Well, I'm not going to go that far with TSA, but I do agree with you that the Real ID, I think that it wasn't needed. First off, if you look at just the possibility that in time this could be used at the voting booth. This could be also used to get your social security check, right? So I think that in time, there's challenges with Real ID that are going to keep pressing on. I think that also, if you look at the cost that this required, that's part of the reason, Robbie, why so many folks were against this, why it took so long to become law. It was an estimated back by the federal government in 2007, 2008, that this was going to cost $11 billion to implement. So Doge, take a look at that. They would have had a field day. $11 billion to implement. So if we think about sometimes some of the things that are going into law, I think we need to think about how much is this actually going to cost for states to, make sure that everyone has this and it's implemented properly, you have the processes and the systems and all of that kind of thing. So I think that that's two major points that I have with it. As far as TSA, we need TSA, Robbie. We need TSA.
No, we don't.
We need TSA.
We don't need it at all.
Folks,
we should get rid of it.
Next time you go to the airport and you don't see TSA, you're going to be like, how are we going to make sure that everything is safe?
By locking the cockpit doors.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
come on. Let's be serious.
No, I'm being completely serious. They don't. Wait, you think the plane isn't safe to fly on because you have a hairspray bottle that's over 4 ounces? It's nonsense. It's utter because we have to take off our shoes. Oh, we took off our shoes and belts. Now we're safe.
Well, they're getting better at
idiotic ritual.
They're getting better at.
Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, all honor, all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, the elders, the great millstone, the top of this truth through the Holy Spirit. Any sincere peace, blessings, and salutations to your Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing this knowledge and truth and its sincerity. It's the brother Brawls off and the gym as Arizona Camel as well. With another quick lesson edified through the Holy Spirit unto you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the true children of Israel, according to the scriptures and according to the prophecy. Shalom. All right, as you can see, that was a video, a news clip going into the now approaching deadline for passengers that want to fly to have the requirement of having the Real ID. And this Real ID is something that came up, as they mentioned in the news clip. This was a result of 9/11, and so since, the early 2000s, this had been in the talks. And now we're finally here where they're actually going to implement this thing. And I'm going to play this news clip from ABC News that goes more directly into what the Real ID is and the deadline. And then we'll grab a few precepts because this is prophecy. You know, this is the Lord bringing forth the end time prophecy, which through gradualism, you can see that this is one step closer to the MOTB, the mark of the beast spoken about in Revelations, the 13th chapter. This is 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter. Getting closer to that where, and we'll get it, it talks about a man shall desire to go into a city and not be able. See, these requirements are gonna restrict travel. They're causing you to have particular requirements in order to go from city to city, whether it's going to be by plane. This Real ID is about, you know, basically air travel by plane. But soon it's going to be whether you want to drive and cross state lines or whatever the case, any type of travel, there's going to be a particular requirement. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it. And this is the direction that this world is headed. And this is the type of society that Esau, Edom, the so-called white man wants. You see? So let's get this precept. This is 2nd Ezra 15 and verse 16. It says, "For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid." So there you go right there. You know, the scriptures talk about how there's going to be travel restrictions. There's going to be checkpoints. There's going to be, you know, this sort of thing that this devil is going to set up on the earth. And when you see this devil making moves like this with law, this is another step in that direction. You see, implementing these types of requirements. Because a lot of the moves that the devil makes, he does it through the enforcement of various laws. And the laws are going to continuously get more and more restrictive upon the people. And it's going to culminate into the mandatory implementation of the MOTB. That's going to be the ID. That's going to be the necessary requirement for you to travel, for you to buy, sell, for you to be a part of this new society that this devil is trying to establish. That's where we're headed. You know, so we watch these things because we know that it pertains to biblical prophecy. Let's watch this clip.
I saw this travel hack on TikTok and I had to try it. To the App Store and
with the deadline less than a month away for a big change at airports right now at the security line, a regular old ID and license that just won't get you on flights, especially those domestic ones. You're going to need an enhanced one. It's called a Real ID, and ABC's Phil Lipoff is following all of this. Help us make sense of it.
And most people will say, you know, you go to the DMV and you get this Real ID. Hey, what's the big fucking deal? Hey, that step ain't it's not a big deal. And it's no sin for you to go and get this Real ID. Okay, but what happens when this progresses to the next requirement, which is the MOTB that goes directly against the commandments of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, then what? And see, that's the thing about it. You know, so we watch what? Because we know that this is just one step closer to the end. You know, 2 Ezra 9:1, it says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there should be seen earthquakes and uproars in the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. And see, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the end, you know, creeping ever so closer through, you know, watching out for, you know, what's going on in the world. And then filtering that through the scriptures. So we got to measure the times by watching as these prophecies unfold step by step, knowing through having the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Shem Yahushai and His truth, what direction this is going in and how it all ends. And that's what we are to profess to our people. As it says in 2 Ezra 15:1, you know, speaking to my people, to the ears of my people, the words of prophecy, you know, and that's why the Lord set up us, the prophets, to do. He set us up to speak this prophecy into the ears of you Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and those that can hear and understand this truth that may look in appearance as the other nations. All right, so let's continue this video.
Of it all.
Well, here's the thing. We just got a question here. Do I really have to do that? Yes, you really have to do that. Starting May 7th, Gio, if you're flying anywhere in the U.S., out of a U.S. airport, you will need to show TSA agents a real ID driver's license or another form of compliant ID just to board the flight. So you ask, what does a real ID look like? It pretty much looks like your old ID, just with a little star on it, and it's a must-have by May 7th. DMVs are working overtime, as you would imagine, just to accommodate. Some in New York will stay open on Thursdays. Out in California, they have 18 offices that will be open early 4 days a week. In Illinois, they've actually created a Real ID super center that was created to take walk-ins.
Oh my gosh. So Phil, what happens if you can't get one on time?
Well, a lot of things you don't want to happen at the airport, right? You could deal with delays, you could deal with long lines. TSA says you might not even get on a flight, period, if you don't have this. This goes back to 9/11. After 9/11, the government said individual states have their own requirements for driver's license. We should probably have a federal one that's tied to your social security number, your legal residence. And so this has been in the works for 20 or so years. As you pointed out, we went on, it's been delayed several times.
Yeah, they keep pushing it back,
That's
but
right.
it is finally here and
May
people need to
7th.
get one. But how many people still need to get a real ID?
All right, so according to federal documents, as of January of last year, only 56% of driver's license were real IDs in circulation across this country, 56%. If you still need to get yours, check the Department of Homeland Security website to see your state-specific requirements for your documents, and if you're a AAA member, you can get help getting an appointment as well. But after May 7th, take a passport or you're not getting on a plane.
Oh, okay. That's a good
If you don't have a real ID,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the alternative.
That's a good solution.
Okay.
It seems like it might get messy at airports. That's for sure.
Well, I don't have mine, so
All
passport.
right. Well,
All right. Good.
So there you have it. You know, starting May 7th, you're going to have this real ID or you're not going to be able to board a plane. You know, unless it sounds like there's going to be an exception if you have a passport. But, you know, it's going to come a time where it's going to be mandatory and then it's going to progress into the MOTB. Whether you want to fly, whether you want to travel, cross state lines, that's what's coming. That's what this all is leading to. This is Revelations 13 in verse 16. It says, and he causeth all. I want to pause right there and let's get that word causeth. Okay. Because, matter of fact, let's go to I think it's in Beirut. Talks about how, okay, it's in Solomon. Wisdom of Solomon 2. And I'm going to start at verse 10. It says, Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 10, it says, let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the aged. Let our strength be the law of justice. See? And that's the point I wanted to get. Let our strength be the law of justice. For that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. It says, therefore, let us lie in wait for the righteous, because he is not for our turn. He is clean contrary to our doings. And we are against Esau, Edom. You know, it says, let us lie in wait for the righteous. So they know that we are against him. It says he upbraideth us with our offending the law, right? Because we're constantly telling these devils how they're going off and how they're in opposition to the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. You know, we're constantly calling this devil out for everything that he does. We're exposing him. You see? It says, an objective to our infamy, the transgressings of our education. He professeth to have the knowledge of the Most High, and he calleth himself the child of the Lord. He was made to reprove our thoughts, you see, and we're standing in our lot doing exactly that. And you know, and this white man is afraid that now that the prophets and the Israelites are standing back upon their feet in boldness before the face of such as have afflicted them. So, jumping back up to verse 11, it says, let our strength be the law of justice. That's what I wanted to get, because a lot of what this devil pushes, he does it through laws. Isaiah 10 and 1, unrighteous decrees. This is how he executes his wicked plans, his wicked devices. All right. And it's done through gradualism. So let's go back to Salakia, Revelations 13:16. And he causeth. All right, let's get that word.
Strong's G 4160. Poieo. Poieo.
All right, it says to make, with the names of things made, to produce, construct, form, fashion, etc. To be the author of, to cause, to make ready, to prepare, to produce, bear, shoot forth, to acquire, to providing a thing for oneself. All right, I'm gonna skip down a little bit. It says to make, i.e., render one anything, to make, constitute, or appoint one anything, to appoint or ordain one that. It says to declare one anything. So this is, you know, to basically implementing a law. You know, this is making someone do something by force. You know, this is forcing someone to do something or causing them to do something. Executing. What else? What other words we got? To institute. You know, and that's ultimately what this devil was doing. You know, with this real ID. Ultimately, it was going to happen with the MOTB. It's going to be made mandatory. He's going to cause you to it. He's going to force you to do it. Well, he's going to make it mandatory is the better way to say it, because though he's going to try to force people to do it, you're going to have the option. You can either, you can submit by taking it, or you could, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, you could submit, or you can basically stand up and deny it, and you know, at the you know, with the option of death, you know, being the other option. So you can keep the faith and potentially perish or die. You know, or you can bow down to this devil and submit and take it. And but there's a penalty for taking this MOTB. And that penalty is that you're surely going to be destroyed by Yahweh Shem Shai. 144% and without question. So let me finish the scripture. Revelations 13:16. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. What's that mark? It's the RFID micro C-hip. And we go into this all the time. You want to get a breakdown on the MOTB, type in your search engine on YouTube, Mark of the Beast, GMS, MOTB, GMS, and you're going to get plenty of edification. It says to receive a mark in the right hand or in the foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell. When you get a plane ticket, what is that? That's called buying. You got to buy that plane ticket so that you can go get on that flight. If you don't have this MOTB that gives you authorization to make that purchase, then you're not going to be able to fly. So that sounds like there's a law where it's mandatory for you to have it in order for you to participate in society, in order for you to make purchases, in order for you to sell something. You're not going to be able to transact. There's going to be no flying. So this Real ID is ultimately going to transform to a new mandate, which is going to be the MOTB. There might be something in between the Real ID and the MOTB, but that's going to be the end goal. That is the end goal, and that's going to be the end result of all of this policy pushing and new laws and these new mandates that are coming about. So Revelations 13:17 says, that no man might buy or sell, save or except he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. There you go. Okay, this is where this whole thing is headed. Okay, so, I saw that this had been coming up for so many years, this whole Real ID thing, but now it's here. We just a few weeks away from May 7th, and there's going to be no more flying without having a Real ID. So, like I said, this is just another step closer to the MOTB. And, we're going to keep watching. We're going to see, what happens with this and then how it progresses into the next phase. But, with that, I just want to give a quick update. Lord willing, this was edifying. I want to give all praise, all honor, all glory unto Yahweh Shem Shai, double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and peace to the hopeful elect out there. Until next time, Shalom.